This is Sports Talk with Steve Jones, a Seven Mountains Media production, your daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball, featuring interviews with special guests. Now here is your host, Mr. Steve Jones. Steve, how you doing today?
Great. How are you?
I am doing spectacularly. I'm probably not doing as well as some fans out west are. There's one group of fans that are really happy and one group of fans that are really mad. What would you want to start with first?
I'll vote mad. I'll say the A's.
The A's fans. I have never heard of a reverse boycott before, but I guess there's a first time for everything.
Well, the timing wasn't very good.
No, it was not.
Because before they went into the park, the Nevada legislature approved $380 million for the Las Vegas ballpark. They did draw over 27,000 at the game last night, which is their largest attendance of the season. Evidently, they all vowed to be completely silent in the top of the fifth inning, which they were. No matter what happened, they were silent. And then in the bottom of the fifth, they started chanting, "Sell the team."
And it got to the point that I believe whoever was pitching at the time thought his pitch comm broke, so they had to stop the game to check it. And he was like, "No, it's just that they're too loud," and he couldn't hear anything.
Yeah.
Which I think is hilarious. And 7,000 fans wore "Sell" T-shirts, which is crazy that 7,000 were made.
You know, once they moved to Las Vegas, believe it or not, Las Vegas will become the smallest market in Major League Baseball.
That it sounds right, but it's also a little bit nuts.
But they'll also then have football, baseball, and hockey. Ironically, the first sport I ever thought would go there was basketball, and that's the one they don't have.
Well, they have WNBA with the Aces, right. Probably the best franchise in the WNBA. So
I mean, they will eventually get an NBA team, and
LeBron wants it.
I would not doubt that Fenway Sports Group, and since LeBron James is part of the ownership in Fenway Sports Group, they're the ones that get it.
Maybe this is just obviously very much so not going to happen. Maybe LeBron retires and then gets an expansion team in Vegas within the same year. Probably not possible, but imagine it happens somehow. And they get this expansion team and they get their first pick as the last pick of the first round, and he drafts Bronny.
And then he comes out of retirement and plays.
And then he comes out of retirement and plays as a player coach. He player coaches at Bill Russell style player coach.
For a year. Well, I mean, Gordie Howe played extra years in the WHA so he could play with Mark and Marty, his two sons. Mm-hmm. And then Mark and Marty then transitioned with him when they went to the Whalers, and they all got into the NHL together in the WHA-NHL merger. And to the credit of Mark Howe was a terrific player. Mark Howe did make the Hall of Fame himself on his own merit between Hartford and Philadelphia. But so it's not unprecedented. You know,
that'd be a very LeBron thing to do.
Yeah. But eventually Las Vegas will get an NBA team, and that'll be the one of all of them that will be the glitz and glamour.
Yeah, and it's not like the NBA doesn't use Vegas. They already go there for Summer League. Right. They already have, I believe...
They've had an all-star game there.
Yeah, and I believe, Henderson, Nevada, so just outside of Vegas, is where the G League Ignite are based. Yeah. So the NBA's got ties to Vegas.
Henderson is, by the way, where Sam Boyd Stadium is. So that's where UNLV used to play. Mm-hmm. And that's where the Las Vegas Bowl used to be played. So that's out in Henderson. That is more to the east.
Yeah, because I know UNLV now plays just like as soon as you come off the highway from the airport is where UNLV plays. I remember getting off the highway there about a year ago or so. Yeah. But it's beautiful, and the NBA will end up there, and I guess the Athletics are going to end up there as well. Under what name, we don't know. If they'll stay the Athletics or not, that's kind of a question.
I think they'll stay the A's. No,
I am not. I think they might want to try for a fresh start. I think...
Well, they've gone Philadelphia, Kansas City, Oakland always is the A's.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I don't think it's a given they're going to stay. I think teams like we had the Raiders switch recently, that was then kind of a given. They're going to stay the Raiders. But I think if one team were to change its name, I think it's the Athletics, and any other one would be the Rays if they were to move. I mean, if the Rays move anywhere, they're going to have to change their name because I mean, if let's say the Rays go to Canada, they're not going to have any Devil Rays in Canada, are they?
No. They would have to change. If they went to Montreal, they'd bring the Expos back.
Yeah, the Montreal Stingrays, baby.
No, not going to happen. All right, so who's happy?
Who's happy? I mean, the city we were just talking about is pretty happy right about now.
Oh, after last night.
Yeah, Las Vegas.
9-3, well-built team. When you have the long change in the second period, that's what showcases your depth. And Las Vegas, the Vegas Golden Knights dominated second periods all through the playoffs. And they dominated the final 12 minutes of the second period last night. I think they scored 4 goals in the last 7 minutes. And they were just all over Florida. Florida had no chance.
I mean, when you score 9, that is crazy on its own.
Yeah.
You normally don't see hockey games get up that high. I mean, they ran it up a few times.
I mean, they scored 4 goals in the last 7 minutes of the second period, including a goal with 1.2 seconds to go. And, they still have 6 original members from that team. This is the 6th season of the franchise. They made the Stanley Cup final their first year. They won it in their 6th year. And Bruce Cassidy, who had been with the Bruins, I think it was a year ago today, he got the Vegas job. So he had been on the job as the Vegas head coach for about a week. And because Cassidy had been coaching in Boston for several years, he had a place on Cape Cod. Jack Eichel had gone to a wedding on Cape Cod. And this would be a year ago next week, I think, is when this took place. So Cassidy got a hold of him and said, hey, look, he said, you know where Barnstable is? He goes, yeah. He says, the wedding's in Barnstable. It was in Hyannis. He said, meet me at the Buttercup Cafe in Barnstable. He said, why don't you stop by? So the two of them sat down at 10 a.m. The cafe closes at 2. It took a little bit, but one of the waiters there, who's 17 years old, looked over and said, God, that looks like Jack Eichel. Like big flowing hair and the whole deal, right? And he says, well, and the other guy, then somebody else on the staff said, well, that's Bruce Cassidy. And I guess they went past the closing time at 2 o'clock. They finally had to be told, hey, guys. Well, Cassidy goes up to pay, and so the young waiter goes over and says, you're Jack Eichel, aren't you? He says, yeah. He said, could I have a couple of pictures? I said, sure, right. Cassidy was paying the bill. Then he got a picture with Cassidy outside. What the two of them talked about was the importance of leadership that he felt that Eichel could bring to the team, because he had been used to having somebody like Patrice Bergeron as his leader with the Boston Bruins. And that's what it was all about. Hey, look, I don't care about your past. I've looked at the tapes. You're not a good player. You're a great player. You make people around you better. You understand the game. Right? You're going to be somebody who's going to walk into that locker room and you're going to have instant cred right away. You don't have to prove yourself to anybody. I need you to be one of the leaders on this team, because your best players have to be your leaders. And that was the gist of the meeting that the two of them had. Now, it was not a perfect season for Vegas. They had their ups and downs like everybody else. But when they needed to peak right around the end of February, that's when they started to peak and really hit a gear. Marchessault's a terrific player. Theodore's a terrific player. Stone is a grinder. He ended up getting a hat trick last night. They went through 5 goalies. Hill ended up being the 5th and last one of the group. And by the way, played very well in the playoffs. Pietrangelo had been on the 2019 St. Louis Blues team that beat Cassidy in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final in Boston. Yeah, so they had a nice mix, but Eichel was a cut above the player that they had, the skill level that they had. He was a cut above that. And Cassidy had known that there had been ups and downs in Buffalo, and he said, look, clean slate, you, me, let's go. And that's what this meeting on Cape Cod was all about 51 weeks ago, and it ended up paying dividends of what we saw in the Stanley Cup run, because Eichel played extremely well during the playoffs. His first ever playoff appearance, by the way. He had never been in the playoffs before, because the Sabres hadn't been there. But, yeah. You didn't think I'd come in with that story today, did you?
No, I knew you'd have something. You're a storyteller, Steve. I am used to and accustomed to you knowing a lot more than I do.
No, it has nothing to do with that. I'm just saying it.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I'll sit there and I try to do some reading.
I remember when there was a lot of Eichel news going on when I was back at Syracuse. My senior year, I was in a broadcast class. We were literally doing newscasts the entire day, and I had the sportscast for that week. And so I saw there was something about Eichel going on, I think in March or so, or April. Mm-hmm. And I texted my friend, who now works on the Cape, funnily enough, and we were chatting about it. And I was like, I don't know anything about hockey. I haven't followed hockey in a few years. What's up with Eichel? And he sent me like 3 or 4 20-sentence paragraphs about it. And then I was like, okay, that was a lot. Boil it down for me so I can get this into detail. And he was like, I can't. There's a lot with Eichel. And his time in Buffalo was, I think it's the best way to put it, it was a lot.
Well, he would, let's face it, when Connor McDavid is the first overall pick, and it come down to the flip between the two, between Buffalo and Edmonton won. Eichel, I want to see, did Eichel go to BU, Boston University? I thought he played up in the Boston area, I thought. But he ends up being the one going to Buffalo, and the constant comparison to McDavid. And McDavid, by the way, put together a spectacular season, one of the great seasons that we have seen. There was that era where a lot of people were scoring points, but nobody, but then it had tailed off. Like getting past 100 ended up being a big deal. I think McDavid was over 150 this year, something like that. Well, Eichel was constantly being compared to him. Well, McDavid has Draisaitl. They picked up Evander Kane. They've got some guys that can play offense on that team. They don't have a lot of guys that can play defense on that team. That's one of the reasons why they're not advancing. But offensively, they are a brilliant team. Eichel has not been surrounded by that kind of talent when he was at Buffalo, and he finally got surrounded by really good talent in Vegas. Hard-working talent, too.
To answer your question, yes, BU was where he went to school. Because he grew up in North Chelmsford, and then
Chelmsford.
BU. North Chelmsford.
It's right up near Lowell.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right near the New Hampshire border. So that's why a buddy of his was getting married on Cape Cod. That's why he went back for the wedding. And it turned out Cassidy has a place there. That's why they met. And they met for over 4 hours. And it was all about, you're a great player. Don't worry about the past. Worry about the present. Worry about the future. Worry about what we can do together with this. Be a leader. People are already looking up to you because you're a great talent. Understand that part. Harness it, right? And take us places that, we've never been to before. Right? And as Cassidy said last night when he was interviewed, he said at one point, he says, well, I guess I'm in the club now.
When you are in any sport a star and you are traded out of the place that you left, or you leave there and you go somewhere new, so often you see these stars try and be the star still, and they try and be just them with no one else around them.
Yeah.
Like I look at that first year of the Heatles, where it felt like it was like there was this weird power struggle, and they made the NBA Finals, but they were boat raced by the Spurs. Right. It wasn't close. But then all of a sudden, you saw LeBron figure out, okay, I can't just be me. I need to be a team player. I need to make everyone else better. What Eichel has done.
Right.
You got to make everyone else better around you. Because, you're the star. Everyone acknowledges you're a star. But we don't need just stardom. We need leader.
Well, and this is the point I made about Jokic yesterday. Jokic gets out there and has a great game in his own right and makes everybody else around him better. The flash and dash guards, whose job it should be to make everybody better, Trae Young, John Wall, guys like that, that have this flash and dash feel to them, are great in their own right, but don't make anybody else around them better. Just don't. And that's one of the reasons why the team, John Morant, that's why these teams are stuck in neutral all the time. Because when they need these guys to make people around them better, they kind of try to take the game over themselves. I think Jason Tatum is somebody that is interesting. He works well with Jaylen Brown. It's not like he doesn't work well with other people. But they've got to get somebody in that group that is thinking about the other four people.
Well, that's what Brogdon was meant to be, because he came in to be that person and also to limit turnovers.
And Brogdon got hurt.
And then he got hurt, didn't play that last game.
In fact, he couldn't play, and he wasn't.
Yeah.
He actually could have made a difference in that series.
Huge difference.
But that's, we'll see what he does this upcoming year. But that's the success of this. Mm-hmm. So you're going to hear a lot about the Jets this year and Aaron Rodgers, and the name Joe Namath is going to come up. In the Super Bowl win over Baltimore, remember, this is the era where the quarterbacks called their own plays. Right? Plays were not sent in by Weeb Eubank. He didn't send plays in. Johnny Unitas called his plays when he was with Baltimore with Eubank as the coach. Okay. Joe Namath called his own plays. So in the Super Bowl, Joe Namath, thought to be big ego, thought to, big arm, forces the ball in there. In the fourth quarter, literally attempted no passes because Matt Snell, Emerson Boozer, and Bill Mathis were running the ball so well or well enough that he felt like the Jets had enough. Right? Now, he ends up being the MVP, but I don't think that matters in all this. But Namath in that Super Bowl game attempted 17 passes. That was it, and none in the fourth quarter. Right? He looked around and said, what's best for us to win? Right? Penn State's playing national championship game against Miami. Right? We are all convinced to this day that on the final drive, that if Miami had wanted to pop a couple of runs with Alonzo Highsmith, they could have popped a couple of runs with Alonzo Highsmith. Right? And they talked about it on the side, and Testaverde would not do it. Testaverde wanted to throw the ball. Okay. What's best for the team? I admire somebody's confidence, but sometimes you've got to look around and say, okay, what's best here? What do we have? And it turned to Penn State's benefit because, I still to this day have no idea who he's throwing to. When Giftopoulos picked it off, I have no idea who he's throwing to.
I don't think Vinny Testaverde knew where he was throwing to for a while.
No. Well, he threw 5 picks in that game. Yeah. It was Conlon had 2, Giftopoulos had 2, and Duffy Cobbs had 1 in that game. But that's, you get in situations like that, and it's the ability of not only your ability to say, I can make this play, which I want you to. You're the best player on the court, the ice, the field, whatever. Right? You can make this play. Or looks around and says, in this particular moment, if I get it to him, we can win it. Michael Jordan. Okay? Twice, finals series winning shots. Everyone remembers the shot he hit against Utah. But what were the 2 previous ones? John Paxson, Steve Kerr off Michael Jordan passes. He looked around and said, I don't have to take it. They got a better shot than I do. Right? The 2 guys are coming at me. They're open. Right? Ego checked in at the door. Right?
And Testaverde's not the only one to have been the quarterback in this place. I mean, I think of Russell Wilson trying to throw the ball at the 3-yard line when you've got probably at that point in time the most unstoppable man in the NFL
Jordan
sitting in your backfield.
Jordan Hill and Michael Robinson, who have both said to me, explain to me why we didn't run. I said, I don't know.
I have thought a lot about this. I don't think anybody but Russ and Pete Carroll knew why they were passing the ball. I don't think anyone else understands in this world.
You think Darrell Bevell knew the offense?
No. I don't even think Pete Carroll understands why they passed the ball, to be quite honest with you.
I don't think he does either.
Marshawn Lynch got them like 12 yards in the 2 plays prior.
Again, does it come down to, if I do this, I beat Brady?
I'd give it to Marshawn Lynch any day.
How about this? Give the ball to Marshawn Lynch. If he gets stuffed, I can't remember if they had timeouts.
They had, I believe it was enough time on the clock. I think it was 3rd down. They had time to burn.
Right.
And they said, we're going to throw the ball. And you have a man whose nickname is Beast Mode sitting there in your backfield.
Doesn't mean he would have scored.
But he would have had a better shot than a pass from the 3 or 2 yard line.
Again, you wonder how much ego entered into it. And you wonder how much I'm going to out quarterback Brady entered into it. And I mean, those are just legitimate questions, not, because I don't know. I mean,
no one knows except for him.
Nobody knows except for him. But you see elements like that, and you're like, what the heck are you doing here? Right? It's when you have teams that play like teams, you see great success. The 2 teams that have won the most recent championships are Vegas and Denver. They've done it within a 24-hour span. They both play like teams. There's no Eichel's a great individual, but who plays in a team concept. Jokic and Murray are great individuals who play in a team concept. The Chiefs play in a team concept. Yeah, Mahomes is the trigger guy for the whole thing. Kelsey's incredible. Right? But they do stuff.
They run the ball.
Right? What was that play they ran? They put Sky Moore as the tailback. And was it Robinson? It
was Robinson.
The fullback. And of course they line up like that. Was the first thing I'm thinking. We're only going to run the ball to Robinson. He's the running back. Right? Well, they give the ball to Robinson. Right? And he tears it off the left side and gets really good yardage on the play. Guess what? That's just good team concept football right there. Mahomes didn't have to throw it 50, 60 times for them to win the thing. Mahomes had a great game, right? But he didn't have to. And that's what happens with teams and team sports. Your ability to get a stop when you need it, your ability to, on defense, to take care of your assignment. Right? Sometimes defenses, for example, get in trouble where you're trying to do the heroic thing and somebody is struggling, so you're trying to help out a little bit as they're struggling. And in your attempt to help out, you're kind of abandoning part of what you do, and you get burned. I mean, you have to be able to do, as Bill Belichick would say, and he's right, right? There's a reason. You have to be able to do your job, right? You have to be able to do your job, right? Which then, in conjunction with 10 other people on the field, that's how you get it to play it, by doing what you do best. And then the decision makers have to then look around and say, okay, who has the ability to make somebody else better? And that's where the offensive part comes in. Who can make other people better? That's the person. We have to have the ball in their hands. So you have to have the ball in the hands of Mahomes. You have to have the ball in the hands of Jokic. You have to have the puck on the stick of Eichel. Now, there's going to be certain moments where that happens because you expect them to make the right play. The right play might be them. And the right play might be me to you. And that's what separates them, what makes them great. We have, and I've talked about this many times, but it's worthy of talking about again. Sports right now is populated with two elements that are interesting.
Do tell.
Sports is populated right now by a lot of great athletes, the best we've ever seen, and populated by front offices that believe deeply in analytics. Okay. Is either one bad? No. Okay. But there are a lot of athletes that are great athletes. I mean, can really run, can really jump, can do, all right. But there's a segment of them, not all, okay? There's a segment of them that don't know how to play. Not all.
Just some.
Some that are great athletes and don't know how to play. Watch base running in a baseball game. Great athlete. Why does he get thrown out going first to third? How come he doesn't cut the base in such a way to give himself an additional step? You know, I mean, little things which a baseball player knows how to do. Then there's the analytics part. Analytics are invaluable, right? But they're a guide. They are not the be-all, end-all. And what makes sports great, to me, happen to be the people who, again, have the feel for it. And so let's go back to that play call in the Super Bowl where Sky Moore is the tailback. There is window dressing, and Moore has a lot of speed, by the way. Oh, but we put the running back at fullback at a three-point stance behind the offensive line where they can't see him. Right? That's a feel for the game call right there. Right? Conversely, if you have a good feel for the game on the other side, you recognize it right away. Like, okay. And analytics can't put a price on something like that. Now, they've taken a little bit of it out in baseball, for example, because you're not allowed to now shift. So, you can get guys near second base, but that's about as far as you go. You don't have anybody playing the beer league softball short field and right field waiting for the left-handed hitter to hit it to him.
I was never a fan of the shift. I think the shift was dumb.
Oh.
I hated doing it when I was a player, but only there were certain times where it was good, but it was every play.
But and the analytics of it are correct. They've looked at how somebody hits the ball, and this is how they hit it, and this is where they hit it. Okay, I got that. That's great. And guess what? Right? For the fan, you're like going, I don't want to watch this. You got to be like, come on. Open it up a little bit. Right? And that's why they had to put the rules in. They had to make some attempt somewhere to open it up, to overcome it. And again, there's certain elements of it that are great. My problem, as I've said with the analytics the entire time, has been very simple. Analytics is a way to win. But there are multiple ways to win. Okay? You talk to people who are involved in analytics, they think it's the only way to win. And you sit there and go, no, not true. Right? It is a way to win. And you can win games using it. And there are some nights where you need your analytics to win a game. No getting around it. Okay? And there are also a whole bunch of nights where you might as well flush them down the drain because they're not helping you. You got to be able to look out there and say, guys, hey, guess what? We got to make something happen here. I just can't have you just launch angle at the whole thing. We got to get something going. We're stalled here right now. Okay, we got to run. We got to hit and run. We got to do something here. Just something that's different that gets them out of position. Right? Gets them thinking. Gets them moving around a little bit. Right? They're too comfortable with how we're playing right now because we're just doing everything by a book.
Want to hear an analytic?
Sure. Well, I'll give you an analytic. He's hitting 312.
Mm-hmm.
That's an analytic, right? I mean, statistics are analytics.
Well, my statistic for you was going to be $57,128,610. Do you want to guess who I am referencing with that number?
Messi.
It is not Messi.
Darn.
Yeah, sad. The person I'm referencing with that is the player option in 2026-27 that Bradley Beal has.
Oh,
because it just came out that
brutal.
The new president of basketball for the Wizards, Michael Winger, and Bradley Beal are going to be exploring how to trade Bradley Beal away from the franchise, but he's got 4 years, 218 or so, or $8 million left on his contract, including a player option on his 4th year of this deal. And the team currently looking, apparently, as the highest possibility of getting him is a team that is already over the salary cap in the losing NBA Finals team, Miami Heat. So make that math work. They need to pay him about $52 million a year.
Well, that's where all these teams have to have capologists now.
Well,
and that I completely understand because I couldn't sit there and balance all the money as to future money, dead money. It's like I need an expert to do that.
But now it's, at least in the NBA, it's about to get a lot more difficult because now that you have these aprons getting involved in the NBA, it now means you can only pay so much until you start losing like draft picks and you start losing certain things you can no longer sign players to. And that then becomes a really big issue for teams. It's why this rule is being put in place because the Warriors, they could have just paid Steph and Clay and Draymond and all these guys for years to come because it's like, oh, well, they're our guys, so we should be able to play them more. Like, yeah, you can pay them more, but we got to put a stop to the overspending that's happening. And now it's being put in place. So the Miami Heat, let's say they trade for Beal, would have 1 year to figure it out because Butler's got 3 years left, including a player option. Bam's got 3 years left. Kyle Lowry's got 1. Mm-hmm. Duncan Robinson has 3 with a player option. Mm-hmm. Oladipo's got an option this year. Caleb Martin's got 1 and an option.
Oladipo being out hurt them. So.
Out hurt. And the biggest one of all is Tyler Hero's $27 million starts this season, and in 4 seasons in 26-27, the same year Bradley Beal's deal as a player option, Hero's contract is worth $33 million.
Per year.
He's making 4 years, 120 over the next 4, and it kicks in this season. So Miami would need to mathematically get rid of both Lowry and Hero just to afford Beal, just on its own, which is doable mathematically. I mean, those 2 alone get you the number you need this season. But after this season, that goes out the window. So
it is...
Threw a lot out you there. It's my bad. That's on me.
No. Because yesterday there was a host in Philadelphia. And I don't know who this person is, so I'm not even going to bother mentioning because he just wants clicks, I think. But I'm glad the boring final is over with. Embiid's way better than Jokic, right? And that was his hot take on the whole thing. He says, let's get back to what makes it tick, and that's the offseason and all that. It's like, okay. Like, games make it tick. Mm-hmm. Now, the offseason is interesting because you're trying to figure out how to build your team.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the player movement in the NBA is so incredibly irrelevant because...
Only one wins.
Right. Well, it's irrelevant because you've got a lot of people moving around and teams that have no chance to win. I will say that I will give credit where credit's due on the draft end of it because a lot of times I kind of felt like the draft was okay. But now you've looked at the last couple of NBA champions. I mean, Golden State drafted Curry. They drafted Thompson. They drafted Draymond Green. I mean, they drafted Jordan Poole, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They drafted these people. Now they acquired Wiggins and so forth. All right, you're going to have to. You have to acquire some people along the way. You can't just do it through the draft. Then you look at this team. They drafted Murray. They drafted Jokic. They drafted Porter. They did a good job with that team, all right, in terms of how they drafted. It may have taken a while, but they drafted well. So you see more teams drafting well that are getting to the finals. The Celtics, have not won the whole thing, but they drafted Tatum, they drafted Brown, they drafted Smart, they drafted Robert Williams. Those are all first-round picks. So they've drafted well as well, and they haven't. And none of those were the first overall pick. They had the first overall pick. And they traded it.
Yeah.
Okay,
what a trade!
You take Markelle Fultz. We'll take Tatum. I'm like going, what the heck are you doing?
But the Raptors. The Raptors drafted half their team. The only players they didn't draft were Lowry and Kawhi.
Kawhi, yeah.
That was
Everybody else they drafted. Teams have been drafting well, have put themselves in good spots, and it's not always the first 5 picks. Now, yes, Brown's a third pick, Tatum's a third pick. Yeah, I got that, but Steph Curry wasn't, right? Klay Thompson wasn't. Draymond Green was a second-round pick. Right? Poole was not a top 5, top 7 pick, right? And that's where you have the team's ability to really take a long look. You talking about the other day about Nick Stauskas, for example, and how Jokic ended up being in the second round of that draft. Right? ESPN didn't pay attention to it. They were in a commercial for Taco Bell when Jokic was drafted, and it just came up as the Taco Bell commercial was airing. I'm not joking about this, right? His name just came across the bottom. They kept going. Right?
Craziness.
Right? Then the leader in all sports, when Jokic signed his deal, his contract extension in 2018, they ran highlights of the guy that the Nuggets ended up sending to Portland.
Yusuf Nurkic.
That's whose highlights they showed when they were telling you about Jokic's deal.
Crazy.
Right? Who in the back room? You have one job.
Mm-hmm.
You have one job.
I have a question for you. So only 10 players ever have had a no-trade clause in NBA history. One of them is Bradley Beal, which makes this a lot more interesting that only 10 have ever had it. Can you name some other players that you think have had that no-trade clause? There's 9 other guys you can name.
Had a no-trade clause in the NBA?
In the NBA. Would you like me to give you some hints, or would you like me to read them off?
No, just read them off.
We have David Robinson, John Stockton, Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, KG, Dirk, Dwayne Wade, LeBron with the Heat, and Carmelo. And now Bradley Beal. One of these things is not like the other. Bradley's a great player. I don't think he fits in that class with those guys. And the fact that he got that no trade clause is crazy. When it was announced that he had it, it was insane. And now it's even more nuts because he basically gets to hold them hostage. Like, he said he loves Washington, never wants to really leave. Now he gets to sit there and say, okay, you can trade me. You have to trade me the team I want to go to, but also have fun trying to find the compensation for him. He's an all-star, 3-time all-star, with $50 million per year left on the books for 4 years, essentially, because he's not going to turn down $57 million in 26-27. No one would do that. It'd be crazy talk to do it.
No.
So you're sitting there. He's like, okay, send me to Miami. Do you think the Wizards are going to want Kyle Lowry as part of that package? They're not going to want him. They're going to have to take him. This is going to be a very, very fun NBA summer. It's going to be a fun summer in a lot of sports. This and soccer transfer wise, it's...
What's more intriguing to you, games or the silly season?
I prefer the games. I think the games are more intriguing. I think it's really funny to hear all the rumors that come out. Yeah. I think the biggest thing is the rumor mill, and it's what makes the world turn, is because this is the time of year that Adrian Wojnarowski, that Shams Charania in the NBA make their money. This is when in the soccer world, Fabrizio Romano makes his dough. Like, this is where these guys thrive, is just they hear everything they need to from the right people and put it out there for us. And then you have people coming out of the woodwork who are me, who don't know diddly. And then I get to put out like, oh my gosh, Steve, breaking news. The Pittsburgh Pirates are trading for LeBron James. And yeah, make that one make sense to you. But someone believes it out there somewhere. And then it becomes a big rumor. And then it's discussed by Stephen A. Smith. And it's really funny because it started with me. So I enjoy the season more. But silly season is fun because it's silly.
Well, it's where you can build your team. And it doesn't have to be the star. I mentioned yesterday, Calvin Booth, one of the big moves they made in the second day of free agency was getting Bruce Brown.
It's a big move. Won him a championship.
Star? No. Okay. Critical part? Yes. Star? No. Good. I mean, it's whatever helps you win. Right? And one of the more difficult elements in all of sports is patience. Doesn't mean patience always pays off, right? Patience doesn't always pay off. But more often than not, we've seen teams that have been a little bit patient because they know they have a core group. And so let's go back 1 year. I talked about Draymond, Clay, and Steph together, right? They lost a lot of games early, right? They lost a lot of games.
They did.
They were a fun team to watch. So I'm doing this. I'm doing this show back in the early 2010s, and I made the statement. I said, I will say this: I don't watch like a ton of NBA. I said, but late night, I said, I'll tell you a fun team to watch. I said, it's not winning. I said, but maybe someday they might. I said, are the Golden State Warriors? They're fun to watch. And of course, I got curious looks like Golden State. Right? So I'm telling you, they're a fun team to watch. I didn't say they were awesome or great. They were fun. Well, then they got really good, and they really became fun. But that's...
I do have one more question on that kind of front for you. So I do wonder about this. So a big part of this silly season, and also what happens in the middle of the seasons in every sport to some extent, is the idea of compensation for players. Not just like how much do you sign them to contract-wise, but how much do you give up in a trade? Or in the soccer world, how much do you pay for a transfer fee? Do you think we're hitting the point where there are limits to it? I know in the NBA sphere, I mean, Kevin Durant's trade was 5 or 6 first-round picks plus great players. Rudy Gobert went for 5 picks. In the soccer world, the best players are going for hundreds of millions. At some point, I know, at least in soccer, they hit that limit where the summer before the pandemic, Neymar and Mbappe were 200 million, and then they had to curb it because all these players who were respectfully not good were getting sold for 50 and 60 because the price was going up for everyone, so might as well bring it up. And now you've got Gobert going for 5-6 picks. DeJounte Murray went for 3. Do you think
Gobert is a great defensive player and is a limited offensive player?
But if you look at the compensation for him and Durant, it's eerily similar.
I know.
So do you think in a lot of sports leagues, I mean, look at what Deshaun Watson went for. Do you think a lot of sports leagues in at least America have hit their cap with how high one should be going? And is there going to be almost a recession in terms of we cannot trade away our entire future on one guy because then we're screwed now?
Well,
do you think that's going to happen?
I'm watching Golf Channel last night. Brandel Chambly, who's been extremely opinionated, always has been opinionated, but been very opinionated about LIV Golf and the PGA Tour. And he said the Saudi money that people have been so critical of, he said, I decided to Google what are the oil reserves remaining for Saudi Arabia. And he said it was 221 years. So financially, they're not going anywhere. So the influence that Saudi money has on soccer is much greater than it is in America. That doesn't mean at some point beyond the PGA Tour it doesn't start to infiltrate sports in America, because everybody's looking for more money all the time. Why is it that when you have huge television contracts, and they're bigger now than ever, the NFL, let's just take the NFL, their TV contract is off the charts. Look at the numbers they're getting from Fox, CBS, NBC, ESPN, ABC, right? Was it YouTube now? Is there
YouTube TV,
right? And also from
Apple TV,
Amazon Prime, all right? Look at the money they're getting from that. Well, okay. Anybody thought about reducing ticket prices in the stadiums to make it more affordable for the fans? We're getting more money than we ever dreamed of from this source. Now, if I want to have people pay for luxury suites and pay more, great, that's fine, because they're electing to go from here up into there. But has anybody thought about reducing ticket prices in an NFL stadium, saying, you know what, the most important part to us is to have you here. Right? We don't need to gouge you on parking. We don't need to gouge you on tickets because we've got this over here. And, oh, by the way, it's a 10-year guaranteed deal with not a network, every network. But do NFL teams reduce their prices?
Nope.
No. Because they're caught in this vicious circle of, well, look how much money we're getting now, and okay, the employees now want to make more money. I don't blame the employees for wanting to make more money. I can tell by the cut of your clothes you want to make more. Right? But so every employee wants to make more money. What then becomes disconcerting to the fan is that they sit there and they see a player. Let's take Deshaun Watson, who gets every dime he has is guaranteed. Off the field, really?
Mess.
Okay. On the field, when he played this year for Cleveland, didn't play well. Now, part of that could be how long he had to sit out. Okay. But he didn't play well. Fans, when they see the numbers that players are making, justifiably expect more from them. Because nobody reduced my ticket price because of the TV deal. I'm still having it. In fact, we're going to up the ticket price by 5%, whatever it is. Right? Well, wait a minute. You just got this TV deal over here that's off the charts. Oh, no, we need more money. More money for what?
Vending machines.
Right? Did they increased the roster size to 46. Right? And you have a cap. But they feel they've got to keep charging because you're in this vicious circle of having to pay people. And there's no doubt that they're the entertainers. And I think fans sit there and say, hey, wait a minute. Am I getting my money's worth? You paid this guy, what's Watson getting? $40 million?
Something like that.
Per year, guaranteed.
Crazy.
Right, okay. Right. Does it give me more hope? More so than Baker Mayfield, yes. But when you have players out there, you worry about the common sense portion of it. So let's take Beal. Okay, to me, the idea is to build a championship roster. Does he take you on the path to getting you a championship roster? And does paying him that kind of money take you on the path to getting a championship roster? And I would tell you straight out, no, he doesn't, as a matter of fact. He and Wall were together. I mentioned earlier, Wall does not make people around him better. Right? John Morant does not make people around him better. Trae Young absolutely does not make people around him better.
They all want Trae Young to leave.
Right, but they're all flash and dash type of players. Beal is a flash and dash type of player. Right? I need somebody who can take care of their own, but then make these other three guys better.
Jimmy Butler.
Right? Jimmy Butler's done that. Now, Jimmy Butler's issue now is going to start to become age. And I think we saw some of that in the playoffs where his level of consistency started doing this because he's an older player now.
I know, but he hurt his ankle against, I think, the Knicks in game 2 or 3, and then it just kind of, trailed him.
Yeah, Jokic was hurt. Murray's coming off an ACL. I mean, you got to look, everybody's hurt. Okay? I mean, everybody's hurt. Tatum got hurt in game 7, the first play of the game. All right. I mean, everybody's hurt. Right? You can play.
You hurt, Steve? Are you hurt?
Yeah, fine. Right? But I'm around it all the time. I mean, you don't think I'm looking out at the practice field in November and know those guys are all banged up and sore? I mean, all banged up and sore. All of them are. Okay? Basketball. I mean, why do they reduce basketball practice? Usually about February 1st, they start backing off on the number of minutes that those guys get in practice. Because everybody's banged up and sore and tired. They all are. Right? This is the equivalent of, we always watch, like, if you watch a horse race, right? And, wow, look at the horse flying down the stretch. He's just got, right. Guess what? The horse flying down the stretch does not have, like, some injection of energy. He's just less tired than the horses that are slowing down and he's beating. They're all running out of gas. He's just got a little bit more left than the other.
Got more in the tank.
Right. And that, and so you get to the end of seasons, people are beat up and sore. And like they do put a lot into it. But if I'm going to pay Bradley Beal $50 million, right, he's got to play 82 games. Right? Got him. I don't want to hear about load management. You're getting $50 million. Okay? To play 82 out of 365 days.
How many times in his career do you think he has played more than, we'll go 65 games?
Twice.
4 times.
4 times?
Mm-hmm. In his 11-year career. I believe 11 years.
Okay. I mean, that's the issue to me right there. All right. Let's take somebody... Bryce Harper. One of the elements about Bryce Harper I admire is I feel like he gives you everything he has when he's out there. No matter what. Okay? I know Aaron Judge has been on the IL twice this season. Well, why was he on the IL the second time? Because he crashed through a fence trying to make a play. Am I supposed to fault him for being on the IL for doing that? No. Right? Jimmy Butler had to play Game 5 hurt. Did he play? Yeah. Did he gut it out? Yeah, because he felt his team needed him. Right? Jack Eichel took a shot. I mean, a real shot. Was it in Game 3?
Game 3. He got hammered. He
got obliterated. Came back in the game because his team needed him. And by the way, Marchessault ended up winning the Conn Smythe Trophy.
Mm-hmm.
Name the last undrafted player to win the Conn Smythe Trophy.
I don't think you can.
Oh, it's easy.
It's easy. I'm going to say nobody.
Wayne
Gretzky. Wow.
Remember, Wayne Gretzky entered the NHL through the WHA.
Oh,
he was
okay.
Not drafted.
My hockey history is not as great as I would like it to be.
No. But, okay. It's something a lot of people wouldn't think of and realize. Gretzky's original number with Indianapolis was 17. I saw him play against the Whalers. I went to a game, like going, oh, that guy's good. He wore 17. That was his age. That's why he wore 17. And then the Racers had trouble, and then they shipped him off to Edmonton, and then the merger happened. That's how, that's why Gretzky was undrafted.
Crazy.
I just thought we'd end with the trivia question of the day.
Hey, trivia is a part of this show.
Yeah. And a lot of people think I'm trivial. Enjoyed it. A lot of fun today.
A lot of fun today. And of course, thanks for tuning in to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, 7 Mountains Media production. Check back daily for all the